Hey, good morning. Another episode of the Politics Barn, in the barn, Thursday the 7th of March. I told you we're going to try to make some more of these episodes, but we're going to try to keep them short. Well, short by my standards. I can't say anything in less than half an hour, so I'm just checking the clock here, just trying to keep it where it's short. All right, what are we going to talk about here? The Georgia lawfare. Stuff is happening now so quickly on all the fronts. There's almost like no shortage of things you can talk about. But we're going to focus in on the Georgia case a little bit, that front of the Democrat lawfare. Polls. And then I guess what? The State of the Union. Joe Biden's what he thinks, or I should say, what his handlers think the State of the Union is tonight, narrated by Joe Biden the best he can on a teleprompter. This Georgia case, it's one of the main thrusts of Joe Biden's reelection campaign, that he is hoping that somehow he's going to be able to hang a conviction on Donald Trump in Fulton County, Georgia, for, I don't know. I honestly don't even know what Donald Trump is alleged to have done. Apparently attempted to fix the election somehow. Did it poorly because he did not carry the state of Georgia. I think he did, but as it was, the electoral votes for that state went to Joe Biden. And I think Donald Trump is accused of committing some kind of crime for complaining about it. So we haven't even gotten to that point yet. Where we're at is that the prosecutors that have brought this ridiculous indictment are found to be corrupt. Surprise! They have been dragged before the judge themselves due to unethical behavior. And what do I know about lawyers' ethics and what these people think is important or not important? That the lead prosecutor, Jiven's sister Fani Willis, was banging a person that she hired to help her with the case. The guy apparently had no experience in this kind of matter, but she hired him anyway and is paying him more than the other prosecutors that she has on staff. So that's kind of suspicious right there. That doesn't smell very good. So they asked these two about this affair, literally, on the stand, and they lied about it. I don't think there's any question that these two perjured themselves on the stand. And the evidence showing that, I think, is pretty significant. You have one witness directly contradicting their testimony. In other words, the key question that seems to have been asked was, when did this affair start? As in, if the affair had started after she had hired him, and he was already on staff, and then late one night while they're determining how to administer justice, what is the best argument to make to convince the jury that Donald Trump is an election-stealing monster? Well, they just got hot for each other and started banging, and kept banging because they fell in love, and it was a romance inspired by democracy and the love of such, and the desire to get the fascist Donald Trump. So a love affair inspired by democracy. But the affair then ended, I guess, just because, who knows. They're not having an affair now, apparently, according to, I guess, them. So that was where we're at. Were they having an affair? Were they not having an affair? So they testified that the affair had happened after that she had hired him. Well, there's a contradictory testimony that happened well before, that this guy, that they were having an affair when he was hired. Now, I'm not real sure that is all that important one way or the other. What is important is they lied on the stand. Her ex-best friend came up and said, yep, they were having an affair. That was going on well before he was hired. This guy's ex-best friend, he gets on the stand, and apparently, as Megyn Kelly calls him, Terrence Bradley, patient zero, because he's the one that spread this all over Fulton County, apparently, that Fani and Nathan Wade, the special prosecutor, were banging. He said the lawyer that's representing one of the countless people in the dock on this case said to Ashley Merchant, yeah, this was going on well before they were hired. Absolutely. Here's the details. So there's contradictory evidence there. The fact that all these trips were taken, their testimony that they Willis reimbursed Wade with cash, that's nonsense. There's no evidence of that. The phone records, their phone records, which have all sorts of texts, hundreds, if not thousands of texts going back and forth prior to the alleged start of the affair. Again, why is that significant? Because they lied. They testified under oath. The affair started here, absolutely here. Prior to that, all sorts of evidence saying, no, that's not when it started. So whether or not it's proven with the current evidence on file, the judge right now is trying to figure out whether or not to keep Willis on the case. If he boots her off the case will probably be fatally damaged, and it will probably just die. Good, that's what we want. That's a win for us. Now, he ruled, I guess, previous Friday, that he would have a decision within 2 weeks. So here it's Thursday already, no decision yet. Everybody's guessing, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? I mean, this guy could, by himself, strike a real blow for liberty in throwing this nonsense case out, and that would really help Donald Trump's reelection efforts if this case died. I don't know. I mean, the guy, I don't know he's a hardcore partisan, but he's under a tremendous amount of pressure by the Democrats to keep this case alive. They just filed within this past week that he suddenly now has a challenger. He's running for re-election as judge. I've always kind of wondered about that judges stand for election in a lot of places. Is that a nationwide thing? I mean, I know we do it here in Pennsylvania. And I guess everybody's always just kind of like, well, somebody's got to be judged, and somehow we got to figure out who the judges are, so we'll just let the people decide. Well, now you have a case like this where this is politically charged, so this guy is being heavily influenced by the fact that he wants to keep being a judge, and the prosecutor in this case, Fani Willis, is basically controlling his electoral fate. If he rules against Fani Willis, his Democrat political career is over. He will never be elected anything in Fulton County ever again. He'll have to move, probably. I mean, there'll be threats against his life. His property will be defaced and vandalized. His kids won't be safe at school. No, and I'm not making any of that up. That is what will happen. He knows it. We all know it. So heavily pressured to rule in Willis's favor. Ruling in her favor, what would that mean? He would tut her on paper and then just say, but it's not really proven that there's any kind of conflict here. The Trump defense team. They made some points, but really there's no proof here, so I don't think there's a conflict, and the case goes on. That is a distinct possibility as to what could happen. Now, will that happen? Well, Trump is also getting some help too. I believe it was yesterday that the Georgia State Senate is now jumping in, which is good. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. These cases have no basis in law. They're all political. So it's nice to see our team get on the field and start participating. So the Georgia State Senate, controlled by Republicans, held a hearing yesterday to go through some of this evidence of Fani Willis's corruption. The fact that they lied on the stand and are corrupting this case as if it wasn't corrupt enough already. And this is really a totally unforced error by Willis and Wade, in that they simply could have gotten on the stand and told the truth, and the judge would have given them a pass. I'm almost certain of that. They painted this judge into a corner somewhat now, in that the evidence of their perjury is overwhelming. But this guy is still under enormous pressure just to leave it go. Had they simply told the truth, it would have been so much easier for him to just go, all right, this is improper, but I don't think America is going to get too bent out of shape. The two lawyers on the same team were nailing each other. I mean, apparently on one of the defendants as a husband and a wife defending him, I think. I thought I saw that. I mean, I don't think that sort of thing is all that unusual in the legal world, that husbands and wives are part of the same law firm or whatever. So I think it would have been very easy for them to simply tell the truth, and this would have gone away. But, you know, Democrats have a real problem with the truth. They don't trust America with the truth. They always want to tell you their story, and they demand that you believe it, even though it's generally not true. So the Georgia Senate's in this now, and they're asking questions about the lawyer that brought this action to begin with, Ashley Merchant, and she's just dumping it out there to him. Hey, here's what happened. Here's where I got this information. Terrence Bradley, the friend of Nathan Wade, and going on and on and on. Now, what does this mean? Well, the Senate being involved, even though they can take no direct action, in other words, they can't have a vote in committee and say, all right, we vote to shut this down. They don't have that power. But what they can do is they can get this information out into the public sphere and let the people see it more thoroughly and go, this stinks. I don't like this. Especially people in Georgia, which is a purple to red state. That this whole idea is going forth in a purple to red state is outrageous. So I know the Republicans down there generally don't like Donald Trump, at least the elected ones. I think the people like him just fine. But the elected, the governor, etc., the Secretary of State, they don't like Donald Trump, but he is the nominee. He is not Joe Biden. Get with the team. So they can pressure the Georgia Attorney General, a Republican, and they can go to him and say, there is just outright fraud going on in the Fulton County court system, which you have jurisdiction over, and we don't like it. My constituents don't like it. You need to damn well do something about it. There is obvious perjury that is going on right now in your jurisdiction by one of your prosecutors, Fani Willis. And then that's where the power could be, where if the Georgia Attorney General comes forth and says, you know, we're having an investigation of this. This is outrageous. We cannot allow these people to put a fraud on the court, and for that matter, America. The lying of the prosecutors, this cannot be tolerated, especially because I think that's one of the charges that they're laying on all these RICO defendants is some kind of fraud and lies and what have you. It's like, how can you charge them with that when you're doing it yourself? How is this allowed? So that's where the Attorney General, a Republican, could get in there. Now, what could he do? Well, for example, I think if he gets in there with a criminal investigation, I think he can get a hold of their actual texts that went back and forth. The defense has already shown that these texts exist, thousands of them, and the dates that they happened. Now, what is in the actual text? Well, I could tell you what's in it. I can tell you what's not in it. They're not talking about statutes and legal theories or doctrines which could be used to prosecute Donald Trump. They're talking about getting down. They're talking about booty. They're talking sex. That is what's in those texts. It's going to be proven without a shadow of a doubt they lied based on those texts. And hell, how do you know what's in the text? Because I haven't seen them. If these people were innocent, those texts would already be out. They would already be shown to the world. Hey, this was all platonic. We were working. We weren't working. We were working. So come on now. This is ridiculous. But that hasn't happened. That's how you know it's in the text. So I'm hoping that this judge knows that, I can't just make this go away. There's too much evidence that these people have lied. And if I try to keep this going, this is going to blow back on me too. So that's where you're hopeful that the decision-making power, due to the mess that Willis and Wade have made, does not just rely on McAfee, the judge, that he can't just sweep it under the rug. Like I said, he is under enormous pressure right now, just make this disappear like it never happened. But I don't think he can. There's just too much malfeasance, that's one of my favorite words, malfeasance that's gone on by Wade and Willis. So I think we're looking okay here in the Georgia case. I think Trump is feeling pretty good there. Polls, let's talk polls. See, the problem is I look at the clock and then I forget where it started. I should write it down. Polls come out almost every day now. Every day there's a new set of polls. One pollster is polling individual states. I think that's Emerson, the Emerson College. And I don't know where that is, frankly, because they don't have a college basketball team, so therefore I don't know. It's like my knowledge of higher education institutions is generally limited to how good's your football or basketball team. So Emerson, they poll all individual states. So the one they just polled was Indiana, which if you live in the state of Indiana, I'm sorry, your vote really doesn't count because there's just so many of your neighbors that are for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to win that state. Whether you vote, whether you don't vote, doesn't matter. Donald Trump will win Indiana. The question that I look at is how far ahead is a candidate compared to where he was in the last cycle, 2020. So Indiana, Trump won, I believe, by 16 points in 20. Further, he won more than that in 16. He underperformed almost everywhere in the 20 cycle as compared to 16, almost everywhere. But now, this most recent poll in Indiana, it shows him up by 21 points, I believe. I think I got that right. I think it was something like 55 to 34, which would generally mean that he's outperforming what he did in 2020 by, a handful of points. And that's been pretty consistent throughout each poll that's released, in that even in places that are not a swing state, Trump is exceeding his 20 pace by 5 points almost consistently everywhere. There was one that come out the other day in Montana, another safe Trump state. Again, Trump outpolling where he was in 2020. Now, another poll, state poll that came out, and I believe this one was released by the local TV station, KTSP, I assume that's in Minneapolis. They showed Trump trailing in Minnesota by 4 points. Now, Minnesota is a reliably blue state. I don't know the last time a Republican carried Minnesota. You gotta, I don't know why. I honestly don't know that much about Minnesota politics other than there are a lot of leftists up there. And this goes all the way back to Walter Mondale, to Hubert Humphrey. Just not a lot of Americans up there, I guess. They don't like capitalism up there, apparently. But the fact that Trump is within 4 points. Now, he lost it, I believe he lost by 7 points in 20. So he's close. He's closer. Another thing I noticed when I was watching the primary results come in, and other than Vermont, no race was close. It was all just, Trump 70%, Trump 75%, state of whatever, Trump 78%. I thought to myself, anywhere that Trump has beaten Haley by 70 or more, I think is significant in that strikes me as a place that's Trump friendly, that Trump might be able to win the general election there. Now, I got no answer for California. Trump won with like 78% of the vote in California. I have no answer for that. In other words, you would think California, if there were any Republicans there at all, they would be of the very milquetoast, Democratish flavor of Nikki Haley's politics. But apparently not. Apparently, if there are any Republicans in California, I guess they like Donald Trump. Another place that Trump did badly was Utah, where, again, I guess that's, they have a Romney flavor in their mouth out there. And he didn't do well there, although I think he will carry Utah in the general election, just in that most of these Haley voters will probably just stay home. I think that might be a bridge too far for them to vote for Biden. Other places he did poorly, Colorado, Virginia, any place there's a lot of elites, a lot of educated people or highly educated people, Virginia, probably Colorado. Trump's not going to do well. So those were places that I would just rule out that Trump could carry in the general election. I guess what I'm looking for is one of those hidden states, like, say, Michigan in 2016, where nobody thought that Donald Trump had any chance at all in Michigan or even Pennsylvania. And it turned out he carried these states and won him the election, where Hillary Clinton is just shocked as the results are coming in going, oh my God, we're in trouble in Michigan? I mean, Michigan's as blue as it gets. How could we be losing there? Well, it may be not as blue as you thought. So where could that be? Well, two states that I thought, based on the primary results, could be Minnesota and Maine. There was a poll that came out, one of those weirdo polls that you don't really know the pollster. It's not one that you see over and over and over again. And it had Trump ahead in Maine by 8 points, which I just looked at and said, that doesn't make any sense at all. That's just such an outlier. I don't believe it. But then, Trump did well vis-a-vis Haley in Maine Tuesday night. He had like 70% of the vote. I think he only carried like 60% of New Hampshire, and he lost in Vermont. So I don't know. I mean, is it possible that any American in Vermont and New Hampshire, sick of communism, just said, maybe Maine's a little more favorable. Let's go over there. Maybe there's more freedom over there. Let's go over there. Is that possible? I don't know. But it has a feel to me that Maine perhaps is getting a little redder, and then maybe he's got a shot at that state. Minnesota just feels like one of those that it'll always seem like you have a shot at that one, but you never do. So, nonetheless, I mean, poll-wise, Trump still very strong. There's nothing newsworthy at the moment that I think is going to shift these polls significantly. One of those type of things like, I don't know. At this juncture, I'm not even sure what could happen. Trump gets convicted. And even then, I don't know if that would be the one that would suddenly move the numbers tremendously. As Yogi Berra used to say, it's getting late early. It's getting late early here for poor old Joe Biden. Speaking of which, he's going to talk tonight. He's going to talk to us. Oh, goody. Oh, goody. So we'll get to hear what he thinks is wrong with this country. Us, anybody not in his corner is all to fault. It's hard to believe that a guy like, and I keep saying Biden, Biden's team, Biden's irrelevant. He's just an old, demented man that can't think, doesn't speak, doesn't know. You can't accuse him of lying because he has no idea what day it is. So, he does not tell you the truth. In his mind, it could be the truth. But how do you say he's willfully lying to you when you're pretty certain that this guy just does not know what's going on? Now, I don't really give him a pass because when he did have his marbles, he was a lying bastard, and he has been his whole life. So I guess he's going to blame the border crisis on the Republicans, and I guess that's just a question of how dumb are you. If you're dumb enough to believe that somehow if the Republicans in Congress had given more power to Joe Biden, that then suddenly he would have closed the border, despite the fact that he's taken no action to close the border. In fact, he's taken countless actions to open the border since he's been president. So he wants you to believe that if only he had had more power from the Congress, then he could have closed the border. Well, what about all these things you could have done here? You could have done this, you could have done that, you could have done this over here. You could have done 100 things, and you haven't done any of them. In fact, you've done the opposite of that, opening the border. That was one of the first things you did when you took office. Are we supposed to forget that? I mean, this crisis on the border is entirely Joe Biden's doing, and he's going to somehow try to convince you that the opposite is true. So hopefully Americans are not that stupid. I don't think they are. Certainly the Democrats they'll believe anything you tell them, some Democrats. But some Democrats, I don't know. I mean, I think some of them are waking up, in that maybe some people in the inner cities that are seeing their kids being told they have to stay home from school today because it's being used to house illegal aliens. Maybe those are ones that are going, what's this? I was kind of told this border thing was a fake, a Republican fantasy. And now my kids are staying home because we're putting illegals in there? I don't get that. That doesn't make sense. It's like, Shazam, the light dawns. Good for you. Good for you, Marty. And I guess they're going to tell me that the high prices are due to corporate greed. Joe Biden, I mean, he was never this much of a communist when he had his marbles. So that's how you know he's a demented fool at this point, a drooling fool, is that he's just regurgitating whatever Marxist crap the Obama people are telling him to do. the corporations, the business, is because that's why prices are up. Prices are up because you shut the world down for 2 years, you ass. And then you've printed money to cover that up, continue to print money. The country's bankrupt, and that's where all that money's got to go somewhere. So the prices just go up. Every time you print a dollar that we don't have, that just makes the prices go higher. And a guy that's got millions and millions of dollars, he doesn't care if he has to pay $15 for a hamburger at a restaurant. He doesn't give a shit. He's got plenty of money. He isn't going to run out. But everybody living paycheck to paycheck, we're kind of like, damn, well, guess it's chicken again. I guess it'll be chicken again. Pork's less costly. I'm becoming a pork fan. I got to eat a lot of pork. Even that's through the roof. When was the last time I saw country-style spare ribs under $4 a pound? I used to be able to buy those for $1.50 a pound. I haven't seen those things under $4 a pound in years. It's a joke. It's outrageous. And we all know it. He's going to tell me that the corporations are hiding their price increases by shrinking the size of products. No shit, idiot. Of course they are. We all knew that. That's just a way that they can try to pretend that they're still charging the same. I mean, I don't really give a shit. It's more, but it's not their fault. I mean, it's called competition. If a giant corporation, I don't know, let's just pick Budweiser, they are charging $2 for a beer, and Coors Light over here is charging $2 for a beer, and now the cost of beer, or what you use to make beer, corn and wheat and yeast and hops and barley, all that goes up. Well, I can't still charge $2 a beer. I mean, I can cut my profit down somewhat, but at a certain point, I'm at break even or I'm losing money. So then I have to lay people off or cut costs somehow. So what do? We raise prices, but I can't raise them too much because my competitor over there, if I go up too high, he's going to undercut me. And then everybody's going to drink Coors Light instead of Bud Light. That's the free market. So this idea that every business everywhere has all gotten together and said, let's screw Americans. Let's screw our customers. Let's screw the people that allow us to be in business and just raise prices. But we're all in it together. We're all in it together because I can't raise prices more than my competitor, Bill, over there. So Bill and I have talked, and we know that we're only going to go here. Everybody's here. No one's going to get underneath them. For one thing, I think that is a crime. So I would think that the Justice Department would be bringing all kind of antitrust cases if were this to be true, and they haven't, because it's not happening. I mean, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that the Justice Department just makes up fake charges. They've been known to do that before, but they haven't even bothered to do that yet. At this point, it's probably too late for them to do it in this cycle. They're just going to try to tell you it's happening. It's not happening. It's lies. The reason prices are up is because of governmental actions taken by the Biden administration. It just really pisses me off when in a capitalist, what's supposed to be a capitalist country like America, we have elected communist officials like Joe Biden who want to blame capitalism. Just really frustrates me, really aggravates me. Capitalism is the best system in the world. But if we listen to idiots like Barack Obama and Joe Biden, then yes, we'll get rid of it and we'll have communism and millions of people will die because that's what happens in a communist system. It always does, it always has, and it always will. But hey, we have an election in November. Maybe we can keep that from happening by booting Joe Biden's communist handlers out of office. I won't watch it. It'll be just too sickening. I doubt he's going to fall down or seize up. He's generally pretty able to stand there and read a teleprompter. In a way, you almost want him to get through it. I mean, what if he does blow sky high tonight? That may not be a good thing, because then we get Michelle Obama. Oh, I know, she said that she released a statement. I am not running. Of course you don't want to look like you want it too much, because then you look like, Kamala or Hillary. I want it, I need it. Give it to me, power, power, power. So, Michelle Obama is definitely, oh no. But believe me, when push comes to shove and they come to her, she'll be like, oh, all right. And that'll play great. Everybody will love it. She didn't want to, but she had to. Democracy is at stake. Michelle Obama riding in on her white horse to save America. Yay! So I don't believe for a second when she says she's not running. So let's hope that Joe Biden's able to mumble his way through this speech and not convince more American. Well, it's like a narrow thing here we're trying to hit. We don't want him to be such a bumbling idiot that everybody goes, that's it, he's got to go. He cannot run for president. Where he himself realizes it, that's he and Jill Biden realize, he's got to step down. That's bad for Republicans. But he's got to be enough of a bumbling moron that Americans see him for inept and incompetent and unable to execute the duties of the job. So right now I think we're in that sweet spot. So let's stay in that sweet spot. Let's not, I hope he doesn't just completely blow sky high tonight and then, next thing you know, we got a press conference 2 days from now where he says, I can't do it anymore. So we'll see. Hey, let's talk again. Oh, like I said, maybe tomorrow. Who knows? I'm Eric Arnold. I believe in free speech. We'll talk again.